The auction smelled like fried moss, cheap lubricant, and dying hope. Voices, if they could be called that, crackled, buzzed, howled, and chirped through the arena as species from 3 spiral arms converged to gamble, trade, and gawk. The auction floor itself was a semi-transparent disk, suspended by gravity coils above a slow-churning maelstrom of stars. A dome of filtered starlight painted everything with soft gold, as if to lend civility to the spectacle. Next up, Lot 8792, the crystalline announcer intoned, voice fracturing into musical tones. One standard issue, Homo sapiens juvenile. Slightly damaged. Functional. Responds to basic commands. A spotlight snapped to a small cage rolled to center stage. Inside sat a human boy, perhaps 9, knees pulled to his chest. Thin, scraped, and dressed in a rumpled jumpsuit bearing the faded crest of a colony most had already forgotten. His brown eyes tracked the crowd, not wild, not fearful, but quiet. Studying. He didn't cry. That, more than anything, unsettled the bidders. Bidding begins at 27 credit slivers, the announcer sang. A flutter of gestures rose from the stands, tentacles curling, mandibles clacking, bioluminescent sacks pulsing blue for interest. The screen behind the boy lit up with data. Origin, height, medical anomalies, language proficiency. No guardian listed. Acquired during a border skirmish on Zeta 3. The last surviving civilian, flagged as unclaimed inventory. Human, scoffed a worm-like bureaucrat in the 3rd tier. They're clever, sure, but too fragile. Break during training. Mine sang to its mealworms, muttered a beetle-faced noble beside him. Creepy, but amusing. I'll bid 30. In a side booth shielded by anonymity fielding, a figure sat cloaked in matte gray, unmoving. No identifying species tag. No reaction. The boy lifted his head slightly. He looked toward the booth. He blinked. Slowly. The auctioneer adjusted its vocal tone to mimic empathy, a marketing tactic. This particular unit shows signs of emotional dampening. Possible trauma. Makes for an excellent companion species or light espionage servant. Bonus. Understand sarcasm. The crowd chuckled. One bidder upped the offer by a single sliver, just for sport. The boy didn't flinch. He scratched absently at his wrist, where a clean scar ran like a surgical ribbon. Above the arena, the betting boards adjusted. Odds offered on how long the boy would last in various training scenarios. Spy Academy dropout in 3 weeks, 2:1. Groomed for pet diplomat duties and exiled within a cycle, 5:1. Sold, resold, broken, discarded, even money. The crowd murmured with pleasure. Trade day was always better with fresh blood. 36 slivers going once. The announcer paused. A soft ping. Then another. The anonymous booth blinked green. Correction. We have a remote override bid, the announcer hummed, its facets shimmering. 1 platinum sovereign. All debts cleared upon receipt. Silence. A platinum sovereign was a myth. A currency older than the current regime, mined in the collapsed Eridanus vaults, accepted by every species that still remembered fear. Accepted, the announcer declared, less musically now. Lot 8792 is claimed. The crowd broke into arguments, outrage, amusement, conspiracy theorizing. No one noticed the boy exhale. Barely. No one saw the faintest nod he gave to the cloaked figure before the lights dimmed and the cage rolled away. Lot processed, chirped a bored dock worker. Final scan on neural stability logged. The boy stood alone in a sterile corridor, light panels flickering above. No one explained where he was going. No one told him who had bought him. He didn't ask. He stared at the blinking panel ahead as the worker filed the sale in a ledger that hadn't been updated since the fall of the Drax Coalition. "Do you want water?" the worker asked, out of some brief, flickering morality. The boy's voice was soft level. "No. You're not crying." "No." The worker hesitated. "They cry. Usually." The boy looked at him, just for a second. Then back at the wall. A signal beeped. A transport vessel requested access to Dock 17. "Guess that's your ride," the worker muttered, and opened the airlock. Outside, a small shuttle waited. Matte black, humming without a visible power source. Its make was unregistered. Its emissions didn't match any known class. The boy stepped toward it. The ship opened its hatch. Inside stood a woman. She was human. She wore simple boots, a gray coat, a hood drawn low, but her stance made the air shift. Her hands were gloved. Her face, barely visible, was blank, unreadable. She looked at the boy. He stepped inside. The hatch sealed. Neither spoke for several seconds as the shuttle pulled from the dock, dropping into fold space without requesting clearance. The alarms that should have screamed simply didn't. "Were you followed?" the boy asked. "No." "Will they?" "No." He nodded. "You're late," he added. "I was deciding how many would need to die," she replied, voice as calm as tea water. "Still deciding?" "Almost done." He sat, cross-legged. They laughed. She didn't ask who. She didn't need to. Instead, she knelt in front of him, opened a small medical kit, scanned his pupils, tilted his chin, examined the wrist scar. "Sleep soon," she murmured. "Your brain is still healing." He didn't argue. Her fingers hovered near his forehead, then pulled back. She didn't touch him. "Do they know?" he asked, quieter now. "No. They said my mother was dead." "She was." That made him blink. "Just not permanently," she added. He didn't understand. Not fully. But something in his posture relaxed. He leaned back against the wall, eyes closing. "They called you a myth." "They always do." "What happens now?" "You rest." A pause. "Then," she said, standing, "we return the favor. In a separate system, across a shimmering Senate hall filled with flowers that whispered secrets and statues that wept ink, a general held a report." He stared at the words, which seemed to reorder themselves each time he blinked. "A child was bought," he muttered. "A platinum sovereign. Under the table. No trace of buyer." "Human?" asked the Minister of Exotic Procurement. "Yes." "Who would pay a platinum coin for that?" The general didn't answer. He was too busy watching the surveillance footage, paused on the moment the cloaked figure entered the auction. Her face never visible. Her footsteps leaving no heat signature. Her data trail absent. "That's not possible," he said. The minister leaned closer. "What?" "This footage," the general whispered. "The original file. It's already decaying, corrupting itself." "Virus?" "No. Just erasure." They sat in silence. "She's back," the general said. "Who?" The footage flickered again. Just once. Enough to show a flash of human eyes beneath the hood. Calm. Cold. Patient. Baba Yaga. The name turned the room quiet. Then the lights flickered, and the statues wept faster. The arena was not designed for subtlety. It was designed to make violence beautiful. 6 moons hovered above the dome, each reflecting in the polished bone glass panels. Inside, a crowd of 17,000 gathered in stacked tiers, swathed in pheromone-scented cloaks, their faces half-masked by tradition or shame. The stage beneath was a living platform pulsing with ambient heat, rotating every few minutes to give all species an equally dreadful view. The day's main event had finally arrived. At the far end, in Gate 12, the Zarkthal warlord prepared. 12 feet tall, armored in carapace harvested from the corpses of extinct rivals, the warlord wore a ceremonial spinal helm and chains forged from ships he'd personally boarded and gutted. His 8 limbs flexed as incense flooded the chamber, and his priest smeared ichor across his tusks while chanting in subsonic frequencies that cracked nearby glass. The warlord, named Crockle of the Ninth Rend, had won 38 consecutive arena trials. He'd once swallowed an enemy captain mid-negotiation. He did not train anymore. He meditated on destruction. In Gate 1 stood his opponent. She was 5 feet and some change. Human. Pale. Slim. No augment tattoos. No kinetic dampeners. No visible armor. She wore gray. That was all. "Combatant designation?" the registration clerk asked, its gelatinous form quivering from bureaucratic boredom. "Mira," she said, without inflection. "Species?" "Human." The clerk paused, one eye stalk twitching in confusion. "Repeat." "Human," she said again. "You are aware that humans are Unsanctioned for Class 5 combat? You may request reassignment to Class 0 non-lethal events. Interpretive dance. Hygiene relays. I'll stay. You'll die. Not today. The clerk blinked slowly, unsure whether to pity her or issue a liability waiver. It printed one anyway, then disintegrated the paper. A medic hovered nearby with a neural scan. She waved him off. The scan still ran. Readings came back clean, boring, unaugmented. The arena AI flagged her as low threat with a brief note, biological oddity, review for study upon expiration. From the upper decks, the announcers began to warm up the crowd. Today's match is a rarity, folks, intoned one with a mouth like a flute. A human has signed a death waiver. Oh, a mother, no less, chirped another. How quaint. In the stands, a few laughed. Some took bets out of curiosity. Others turned away, preferring not to watch mammals be flattened. The Zarkthal emerged first. The crowd roared, throats glowing with excitement glands. He lifted forearms, roared, then performed the ancestral blood spiral, a dance of murder used only when death was guaranteed. He swung twin axes carved from neutron rock. He stomped, splitting the floor with each step. His breath steamed. The heat from his body warped nearby sensors. Then the gate across the arena hissed. Mira walked out alone. No dramatic entrance. No theme song. No ceremony. She stopped 5 paces from the center mark. Said nothing. Moved not at all. The warlord clicked his mandibles in irritation. Start the countdown, he growled in high talon. Begin in 10, the announcer intoned. 9, 8. Mira rolled her neck once. Her fingers flexed. The crowd muttered. Her heart rate, displayed on a public board, remained below resting. Her breathing, perfectly timed. She had no fear reaction. No stimulation spike. The board glitched, trying to make sense of her vitals. 3, 2, 1. The warlord lunged. It wasn't a charge. It was an avalanche. For tons of trained muscle, rage, and chitinic plating, armed with axes that had severed hulls. The arena floor shook. The first row leaned back in anticipation of the splatter. Mira moved sideways. Barely. The axes missed her by inches. The warlord's momentum carried him forward, just enough for her to plant a foot and pivot on the arena's curvature. She tapped the floor. The lights dimmed. The crowd gasped, not from her movement, but from the warlord's brief stumble. It was imperceptible, unless one understood orbital motion physics and friction differentials of the arena shell. She did. Her first strike was with her foot, a soft nudge against a microfracture in the warlord's knee joint. Not an attack. A test. He swung around, roaring, and brought his right blade down in an arc. She ducked. Not gracefully. Mechanically. Like she'd seen the attack an hour ago. This time, she struck back. Her fist hit a nerve cluster behind his second mandible. A flicker. A twitch. The warlord growled in confusion. His legs staggered. The announcers stumbled to find commentary. Mira walked 5 paces to her right. Her hands still loose. Breathing even. Crockle screamed. Spittle hissed on the arena floor. Die, he bellowed, and activated his exostim injectors. His body doubled in size. Muscles ballooned. Veins bulged with venom. He charged. She didn't dodge this time. She ran toward him. For a moment, even the AI cameras hesitated. Her movement blurred, not from speed, but intention. There was no wasted motion. She slid beneath him, twisted mid-roll, and fired a spike from her wrist, one small, obsidian dart straight into a hidden sensory node beneath his spine. He fell. Hard. The crowd made no sound. Crockle tried to rise. Couldn't. She was behind him now. He turned, roaring, and lunged again. She leapt, one knee onto his shoulder, one hand bracing behind his crown. He flailed. She whispered something only he could hear. Then she drove a thin blade, not a show weapon, but a precise surgical sliver, into the spot between his uppermost vertebrae. He twitched once. Stopped. The arena lights froze. Blood pooled, slow and blue, soaking the floor in silence. The crowd remained quiet for 3 full seconds. Then chaos. Half the audience screamed. The other half fled. Security AI sent warnings. The betting systems crashed. In the box above the arena, the judges conferred in glitching whispers. Impossible, one said. No human should. The footage replayed in 10 different modes. Every version confirmed the same outcome. A tactical neutralization of a Class 5 warlord. No armor. No augmentation. No enhanced reaction time. She stood beside his corpse, hands relaxed at her sides. A child's voice echoed faintly from the announcer's booth, replayed from earlier bidding. She was dead. Mira turned toward the judge's box. "I want my son," she said calmly. The words weren't amplified. They didn't need to be. An ambassador from the interspecies concordance turned pale. "That's not a woman." "Correct," murmured a tech adept. "That's a ghost in a war form." She walked off the arena floor as alarms sounded. The systems tried to scan her again. Nothing. No data. As if she weren't there. No medals. No victor's anthem. No sponsors. She passed Gate 1 without a glance, leaving behind a corpse that still twitched. In the back halls, a young human boy watched her approach. He didn't smile. Neither did she. "Ready?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Just briefly." "We're not done," she said. He nodded, and they walked out together, leaving the arena lights flickering, confused, behind them. Aboard the diplomatic frigate Oathkeeper's Mercy, panic was brewing beneath polished protocol. 2 hours had passed since the Zarkthal warlord fell in the arena, crushed not by brute force, but by the quiet arithmetic of inevitability. The death was televised. The footage had already been translated into 17 languages. 50 million viewers watched a woman in gray dismantle a war machine with the precision of a needle threading silk. Reactions varied by species. The Lochthrel called it theater. The Nintari mourned the loss of such a lucrative champion. The humans, what few of them held seats in the Galactic Senate, said nothing. They didn't need to. In a sealed chamber beneath the Central Observatory, a dozen ministers gathered around a flickering holotable. The scene replayed again, Mira dodging, Mira striking, Mira kneeling beside her son. "She should not exist," whispered the chief of combat records. "She doesn't," replied the minister of species integrity. "Her file was purged 2 decades ago. She killed Crockle. She undid a super soldier using unaugmented human physiology." "No," said a soft voice at the end of the table. "She undid him using experience." They turned. An old man stood there, human, gray-bearded, half-cybernetic, and clearly annoyed that he'd been summoned from retirement. She was listed as Kia. Someone offered, uncertain. "She was supposed to be Kia," the old man corrected. "Who is she?" the insectoid diplomat asked. "Some human war hero." "She's not a hero," the old man said. "She's the reason the Empire backed off Europa Ridge in '98. The reason 27 assassination drones mysteriously exploded mid-flight. The reason 2 warlords resigned without explanation." He tapped the holotable. It glitched, then displayed a name. Mira Arevskaya, classified designation, Ali Baba Yaga. One of the senators scoffed. "That's a myth." "Not to us," said the old man. "To humans, she's the story you tell when war is over and you still want your soldiers to behave." "Why was she erased?" He smiled grimly. "Because she asked to be." Back on Myra's ship, silence ruled. The child sat at the central console, observing the drifting stars. His name was Luca, but no one called him that anymore. Names had weight, and they'd made his too heavy to carry alone. He watched the stars with the hollow focus of someone taught to survive before he was taught to read. Mira entered the cabin without announcement. He turned. "We're being followed." "I know." She sat beside him and handed him a strip of dried meat. He didn't ask what it was. Neither did she. "They'll escalate now," she said. "They'll need to explain why their champion died to a civilian." He chewed slowly. "They'll send soldiers." "No. Worse. They'll send diplomats." He glanced at her, eyes narrowing. "You'll kill them?" She didn't answer. He looked back at the stars. "I'm not scared." "I know." They sat in silence. Then the proximity alert chirped. Mira stood. Stay here. At Dock 9, on the neutral moon of Philogen Theta, an elite team disembarked. They were not warriors in the traditional sense. Their armor gleamed with the polished calm of authority. Their translator drones hovered just behind, offering apologies in 500 dialects. These were the Galactic Empire's problem solvers. They spoke softly and arrived with untraceable weapons. Their mission was clear: retrieve the boy, pacify the mother, contain the narrative. Mira was waiting. She stood in the docking bay's shadowed edge, arms folded, no weapons visible. The diplomat approached with a smile that had disarmed rebellions. Mira Arskea, he said. It's been a very long time. She tilted her head. Not long enough. We're not here to fight. You never are. We'd like to resolve this peacefully. No. Surely we can come to terms. You sold my son. The smile faltered. That was unfortunate. But we can make amends. An apology from the Senate. Reparations. Reparations. A gesture of good faith. She stepped closer. They put a collar on his neck. Fed him with code words. Auctioned him like salvage. The diplomat's smile was gone now. He's been returned. Not enough. The diplomat's fingers twitched. A subtle signal. 2 guards flanked her. She didn't move. You have a choice, the diplomat said gently. You can be a ghost, Mira. Vanish again. Or you can become a martyr. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. I've already been a ghost, she whispered. And I do not die for causes. I end them. The first guard moved. Fast. Efficient. Mira was faster. 1 twist, 1 elbow, 1 flick of the wrist, and he was on the ground, unconscious. Not dead. Yet. The second raised his weapon. She stepped inside his range, disassembled the rifle midair, and embedded its core into his armor with enough force to short his spinal relay. The diplomat backed up. Please, he said. Don't. She raised her hand. Not a weapon. A coin. A platinum sovereign. It shimmered with ancestral coating, no longer in use. Untraceable, unreproducible. The very same she'd used to buy her son. You see this, she said, voice soft. It's not a threat. It's a reminder. He nodded. You think it means power, status, bribery. It doesn't. Then what? It means I've already paid for what I'm about to do. She dropped it. The ship's lights flickered. The diplomat ran. Luca watched her return. Her coat was splattered, not with blood, but with streaks of carbon and ash. He didn't ask. She didn't explain. I told them, she said finally. He looked up. If they come again, she said, I'll remove the entire negotiating body. He blinked. Is that allowed? No. He nodded. Good. She sat beside him again, rested her head back against the chair. I'm tired, she said. He didn't speak for a while. Then, you'll rest later. She smiled. It was the first one he'd seen. Across the galaxy, messages rippled through the political veins of empires. Baba Yaga is alive. She fought in the arena. She won. She retrieved a child, her son. She dropped a sovereign. She issued no threats. She made no demands. And yet, systems braced for war. A senator on the Outer Rim initiated lockdown procedures without permission. A military AI rerouted 2 fleets from ceremonial patrol to homeworld defense. A diplomat wept in the privacy of a diplomatic lounge, recounting the pressure of her presence, the hum of inevitability. One admiral reread an old report filed during the Earth conflict, redacted and locked for decades. It ended with one line. Do not provoke the ghost that walks with intent. Do not touch what she loves. She does not warn twice. In his personal notes, he wrote something new. We already touched it once. We won't survive a second. On Myra's ship, Luca watched her sleep. He didn't remember her from before. Not fully. Just fragments. Songs in kitchens, long shadows at dusk, a smell that reminded him of wet earth. But she was here now, and the galaxy was terrified. He watched her breathe, slow and steady. She wasn't invincible. She bled. She hurt. She healed slowly now. but she moved with a calm that stilled entire rooms. He knew, with absolute certainty, that she would burn the stars before she let them take him again. That was enough. He curled beside her chair, closed his eyes. Tomorrow they'd run again, or they'd hunt. Either way, it would begin with her opening those quiet eyes and deciding who got to live. The delegation arrived in silence, their ships hovering above Earth's atmosphere like a funeral procession waiting for permission to land. Every protocol had been followed, every weapon powered down, every diplomat hand-selected for composure, delicacy, and an intimate understanding of what had happened 3 days ago in the arena. They didn't send soldiers. They didn't send drones. They sent apologies. At the heart of their trembling diplomacy stood the Grand Envoy of the Galactic Senate, a creature that resembled an upright lily pad sprouting a lattice of golden eyes. Its robes were woven from artificial dusk, trailing smoky tendrils behind it like a fading threat. It floated down to a small, square homestead in the middle of nowhere, a cabin of stone, glass, and stubborn human earth. The woman met them at the fence. She didn't dress for the occasion. No war coat, no armor. She wore a sweater, threadbare at the cuffs, and jeans that had seen better decades. Her boots were still muddy from the field. Her hands were in her pockets. The envoy bowed, a full rotation of its body. "We come in peace," it began. "You usually do," she said, voice calm. "We wish to speak. To clarify misunderstandings. To offer." "No." The envoy blinked. "No. You don't need to clarify. You came for a child that wasn't yours. You sold him. You watched him suffer. The understanding is clear. We believed he was unclaimed. You believed the lie because it was convenient. And now you want absolution." The envoy hesitated. Its lower cilia fluttered with nerves. "We want closure." She tilted her head. "You want to walk away clean," she said. "And you want to make sure I don't follow. That's... Don't lie." The envoy stopped speaking. Behind her, the door creaked open. The boy stepped out. His hair was still damp from a bath, his sleeves too long for his arms. He stood quietly, blinking at the visitors as if they were just another part of the landscape, birds, wind, enemies. Mira glanced back once, then faced them again. "He's mine," she said. The envoy nodded. "Yes, that has been documented. You will never take another." "No," it said. "You will never come for him. Not through courts. Not through science. Not through diplomacy." "Understood." "You will not watch him. No surveillance. You will not study his DNA, mark his file, track his movement. We will erase the record," it said. "You will bury the record. You will make it myth." "Done." She took a step closer. The envoy didn't move, but several of its guards subtly shifted. Useless reflex. "If one more human child disappears," she said, and her voice dropped a register, softer now, "I will not come for negotiations. I will not come with a sovereign. I will not warn." The envoy nodded. "If even one child goes missing again," she leaned forward, eyes flat and clear, "I will erase your homeworld. Personally. I will use the teeth of your gods to write my message in the bedrock." Silence. The envoy trembled. "We believe you," it said. "Good." She turned her back to them, and in doing so committed the ultimate act of power, disregard. The envoy turned to go. Its guards followed. One of them, younger, braver, lingered behind a breath too long. The boy looked at him, not with hatred, with precision. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He memorized the face. The envoy's shuttle lifted off without fanfare. No threat, no retort, just wind and regret. When the ship vanished from the sky, Mira finally breathed. She didn't sag. She didn't soften. She just stood still a moment longer, then turned. The boy met her at the steps. She reached out and straightened his collar. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "You believe them?" "No." "Good." They went inside. Dinner was quiet. Stew. Bread. Luca ate in slow, thoughtful bites. Mira watched him. The lines in her face softened with the firelight, but never fully relaxed. She wasn't built for peace anymore. He knew that. She wasn't trying to be. That night, he fell asleep with the window open. Cool wind. The sound of insects. Stars that didn't blink with military satellites. She sat in the hallway for hours. Watching. Listening. She didn't sleep. She never did for long. In the Galactic Senate, votes were cast in whispers. A resolution passed unanimously to mark the incident as classified. Mira Arevskaya's name was struck from the current century's databases. All relevant footage was quietly corrupted. Those who insisted on preserving the data were relocated. Permanently. The official line read, "Accidental fatality during sanctioned gladiatorial display. No foul play." But underneath it all, quiet memos circulated through intelligence channels. Avoid Earth. Avoid human children. If Baba Yaga speaks, do not answer. If she walks, do not follow. If she stops, run. Mira stood by the field, watching rows of stubborn crops reach toward the sun. It had taken years to find this soil, not because of its quality, but because it was forgotten. She needed a place the maps didn't remember. Luca joined her, silent as always. He handed her a cup of coffee. She took it. "Did they mean it?" he asked. "Yes." "Will they keep it?" "No." He nodded. "Do we run?" She looked at him. "Do you want to?" He thought. "No," he said. "Then we stay." The wind shifted. Something on the horizon moved. Too far to see clearly. A ripple. A shadow. She watched it without blinking. He didn't ask what it was. He just stood beside her. She reached down and took his hand. Not out of fear. Not out of comfort. But readiness. The boy squeezed her fingers once. Then let go. He walked back toward the house. Mira watched him go. Then she turned to the shadow. Waited. It passed. Far away. In a room no longer marked on any galactic chart, a council gathered. Not of politicians. Not of warriors. These were the ones beneath the floorboards of power. The old, the removed, the never quite dead. "She's quiet," said one. "For now," said another. "What do we do?" "Leave her alone." "She's dangerous." "She's finished." "No," said the quietest voice in the room. "She's only finished when he sleeps in his own bed, and the stars stay silent." "And if they don't?" The voice leaned forward. "Then the stars will burn. One by one." Back at the homestead, Luca slept through the night. He did not dream of auctions. He did not dream of cages. He dreamed of a sky that held no ships, of a world that didn't tremble when he left, of a door that would never lock again. Mira sat by the window, watching, always watching. And when the morning came, she opened the door and stepped out into a world that had finally learned to fear the right things.